Hi biologists, let's start by looking at the learning objectives for this lesson. At the end of this section and following the biology syllabus, you should be able to define an organ and exemplify it by using two kinds of organs, one each from a plant and an animal. What does this mean? What are we trying to understand? Well, we have to know the definition of an organ, and we have to be able to explain or illustrate this definition using two kinds of organs, one organ from a plant and the other organ from an animal. Let's look at organs. Before we look at organs in detail, let's remind ourselves of the definition of organisation. Organisation is a characteristic of life and is therefore an important definition for us to know. Organisation is the way living things are arranged into cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, individuals, and populations to fulfill their functional need for metabolism, in other words, to be able to carry out their chemical reactions and to be able to continue to exist. So in a nutshell, we would have already met the idea that organs are composed of tissues and organs work together to make organ systems. The objective of this lesson is to focus on the idea of organs and know the definition of an organ and be able to exemplify it or explain it using examples. So, the definition of an organ is that it is a group of different tissues working together. I think of this by remembering the idea that an organ is a team of tissues. It's a tot, a team of tissues that work together to carry out one or more functions. Roots, stems, leaves, and flowers are all examples of plant organs. This question has been asked on occasion, so check out some previous videos for detailed information on the structure of roots and stems and leaves, etc. Your heart, liver, stomach, and kidney are all examples of animal organs. These are easy enough to remember because we have heard of organ transplants. You have a heart transplant, you have a kidney transplant, and even a liver transplant. So now, we have to exemplify this definition of organ, that it is a group of different tissues working together to carry out one or more functions, using two types of organs to explain the definition. We have to first of all use a plant organ to exemplify the definition of an organ, and in this case I'm going to use the example of a root. Secondly, we have to use an animal organ to exemplify the definition of an organ, and in this video I'm going to use the example of a heart. So let's look at a plant root. Now remember, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to show that this root is an organ because it's basically composed of different tissues working together to carry out one or more functions. So if we're looking at the root, we must be able to observe that it is composed of tissues. We've seen this already. We realise that a plant root is surrounded by dermal tissue for protection. The root is packed with ground tissue. Ground tissue consists of round cells that are used for storing food. We've already learned that the root is composed of vascular tissue or transport tissue, xylem for transporting water and minerals, and phloem for transporting food. Don't forget O in phloem, O in food. And lastly, we would have seen that there is meristematic tissue at the tip of the root which allows for growth. Therefore, the plant organ or the root consists of a number of tissues which we've actually met before. Dermal tissue, ground tissue, vascular tissue, and meristematic tissue, all of which work together to absorb water and minerals from the soil, to anchor the plant into the ground, and sometimes to store food. Therefore, using the organ, the root, as an example to exemplify or to explain the definition of an organ, we can see that an organ is composed of a group of different tissues working together to carry out one or more functions. Now let's do the same idea, except this time we're going to use the example of the heart. The heart, an organ, consists of muscular tissue called cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is the muscle in the heart. This muscle never tires. The heart organ also consists of epithelial tissue called the pericardium. This tissue surrounds and protects the heart. This is easily remembered. Looking at the word, we can see peri, coming from the word perimeter or around the edge, and cardium coming from the idea of cardiac. So the heart organ is composed of epithelial tissue or the pericardium, which surrounds the heart. It protects the heart, it lubricates it, it actually helps to keep it in place within your chest. The heart organ also consists of connective tissue, which is blood. We've covered the idea of connective tissue already, in that connective tissue consists of similar cells in a matrix. In this case, the matrix is a liquid. Lastly, the heart is composed of nervous tissue which controls the beating of the heart. So as we're using the heart as an organ to exemplify the definition of an organ, we have to be able to show that yes, it is composed of different tissues. We can see here muscular tissue, the idea of epithelial tissue. It is filled with connective tissue and consists of nervous tissue. And all these different tissues work together to carry out the main function of the heart, which is to pump blood around the body. Therefore, we have succeeded in showing, using the heart as an example, the definition of an organ. We have proved, or we have exemplified, particularly in the root and in the heart, that an organ does consist of different tissues working together to carry out one or more functions. Don't forget TOT. A team of tissues carrying out one or more functions. O for one and O in TOT. And there you have it. practice in a jotter. Now that we've reached the end of our lesson, have we achieved our objective? Can you define an organ and exemplify it by using two kinds of organs, one each from a plant and an animal?